Aloha yogis, I'm Cori, and that's what my shirt says. And the reason I'm wearing it is number one, because my mom bought it for me from Hawaii, so thanks mom. And number two, because today we're doing a low back tutorial. And since I'm a yoga teacher and I go to a lot of yoga classes, in the beginning of the classes, the teacher or myself will usually ask if there's an area of the body that's causing people any problems or anywhere they want to focus on. And in almost every one of the classes that I've been to recently, someone has asked for help with their low back. So for some reason we're having a low back epidemic, probably from all the sitting and TV watching and phone watching and computer using that we do. So hopefully we'll give you some stuff today that'll get it set right for you. We'll get started down on our backs. And I'm starting backwards just so you can see what I'm doing. But we'll take a few moments to get settled into our breath. So let's start in a constructive resting pose that takes some of the pressure off the low back. We'll let our knees fall together in the center and have your feet be as wide as your mat. And then you can leave your hands by your side or place them somewhere on your body that feels nice to you. Close your eyes. And we'll just start to settle in here on our mats. Start to lengthen your inhales and your exhales. And then just start to do a scan through your body, noticing anywhere that's feeling tight or where anything might be getting stuck, as well as any areas that feel particularly nice today. And just checking in. Noticing where your mind is at, how your thoughts are behaving, and how you feel emotionally. And we try to bring our attention as best we can to our here and now right on our mats. And then whether or not you have your hands on your body, we'll still expand all the way down into our bellies. And make your exhale even a little bit longer than your inhale. Inhale fills you all the way up. Really long, slow exhale. And we'll take that once more. Inhale, fill up. Exhale, release the breath out. And let your eyes blink open. We'll bring the knees back apart, but keep your feet spread wide. And then we'll cactus the arms. We'll let both knees drop over to the right. You might feel a little opening in your left hip flexor here. And then we're going to turn the right palm down. So you're kind of walk like an Egyptian arms. And then as we inhale, we're going to come up through center. So you'll lift both hands up to the sky and your knees up at the same time. You'll inhale coming up through center. And then as you exhale, start to switch out the arms. Let your knees drop over to the left. And you'll do that the same way. Inhale, arms and the knees come up through center. Exhale, switch out the arms. Let your knees drop over to the right. And we'll do that once more to the other side. Inhale, lifts you up through center, matching movement to your breath. Exhale, knees drop over to the left. And we're going to start to get our neck in on the action as long as that feels okay on your neck. So you'll come to look at the hand that's up, so your right hand right now. And then as you inhale, your fingers will point up to the sky, knees point up, and your gaze comes toward the ceiling. As you exhale, neck shifts over to the other side, knees drop over to the right, and then your arm comes down. And then we'll start to move a little more fluidly. You'll match your movement to your breath. And this move is good for the low back. It's also borrowed from yoga therapy. Since we have so many things to focus on here, it's kind of hard to think about anything you might be worrying about. And hard to deal with anxiety when you're just thinking about your movement and your breath. And let the way you move be really slow. Try to match the exact moment that you finish your inhale to when everything comes up to the top. And then you start your exhale. And by the time you let all the breath out, your hand, your knees, your head, or your cheek have turned over to the other side. So take that a few more times, matching your rhythm and your own breath. And just feeling into your body, nice and slow. And whichever side you're headed to, we'll let that be our last side. And take the knees up through center, and we'll just give them a nice squeeze into the chest, drawing them into the sides of your body up towards your armpits, or giving yourself a nice big hug. We're going to reset the feet right in front of the hips. So they'll be hips distance apart, but close enough to your butt that you can touch your ankles. And press down through the palms. And then we'll start to lift just the tailbone so you'll feel your low back press down into the earth. Press down through your feet. Start to feel your shins press forward to the front of your mat. And that'll start to lift your low back up off the earth. Keep pressing through your shins and the bottoms of your feet. That'll lift your hips up in line with your knees and your shoulders. You're coming to a diagonal bridge pose. And try to release your glutes. So let the activity come from the bottoms of your feet pressing down and your hamstrings engaging. And press down through your arms and your palms. Lift your heart a little higher and keep your gaze up at the sky. And we'll take another inhale here. Exhale, lower your hips back down to the earth. We'll just windshield wiper the knees from side to side a little faster than we did before. And then we'll curl yourself into a nice ball. Grab hold of the backs of the hamstrings. We'll take some long rocks up and down your spine. Or if it bothers your low back to rock, we'll just come around onto all fours, coming into a tabletop position. We'll take a few rounds of just a standard cat and cow pose here. So keeping your toes tucked or untucked, we'll drop the belly down towards the mat. Draw your shoulders back, start to take your gaze forward and a little bit up. Pull your shoulder blades together behind you. And then we'll exhale. Tuck the tailbone down towards the floor, round through your shoulder blades, drawing them apart from each other. Press your finger pads down into the mat. And then your inhale drops you back into your cow pose, drawing your heart forward. You'll feel a lift in your tailbone. And exhale, round your spine. Start to squeeze out every last drop of air as you curl into your cat. Inhale drops you back into cow pose, pressing down through your palms, lifting your heart and your gaze. Exhale, squeeze back through your cat. We'll take 2 more rounds of each one, following your own breath here. And after your second round, we'll meet back in a neutral spine. We'll spread the fingers wide. And we're going to drop down with knees, chest, and chin. So we'll keep our elbows tucked in by the sides of our bodies. Start to lower your chest and your chin down to the mat. So your hips are lifting high. And we'll pull your shoulder heads away from the mat. And start to shift your gaze forward. Just settling here for a couple breaths. And then from here, we'll start to slither forward all the way onto your belly. Untuck your toes if you have them tucked. And press down through the palms. They'll be right beside your rib cage. We'll rise up into a baby cobra. Press down through your toenails. Draw your elbows back towards your heels. And keep your gaze down on the floor in front of you. Inhale here. Exhale, lower down. And we'll take another round of baby cobra. Inhale, rise up. Now exhale lowers you back down to the earth. Now we'll start to walk the elbows forward so they come right underneath your shoulders. We're setting up for Sphinx pose here. So we'll press the hands down into the mat right in front of you. Keep your neck really long. And then keep pressing the tops of your feet down into the mat behind you. You'll feel your knees lift up off the earth. And then start to press down through your pelvis and engage your core. So we're not so much dumping into the low back. We're finding some lift here by pressing down into our hands. You'll feel the area underneath your armpits start to engage. And then you're pressing down through the tops of your thighs and your hips so that your lower belly's not sinking down into the mat. So it seems like we could be relaxing here, but we're actually pretty engaged. And we'll take a few breaths here in Sphinx pose. Keep pressing down through the tops of your feet. And then we're going to start to straighten the arms out at a diagonal. So we'll come to seal pose. You'll still be pressing down through the tops of your feet. You'll walk your hands out past the upper corner edges of your mat. And then still thinking about pulling your heart forward, and that'll take some of the pressure out of your low back. And you'll still feel like your armpits kind of hollow out. You're pressing down so much. And then as we start to get into the real seal maneuver, we'll start to walk one hand at a time back up toward our hips. Press down through your hands. Still think about lifting out of your low back. We'll inhale here. And then your exhale, we'll sit the hips back onto the heels for child's pose. We'll keep the knees together in our child's pose. So let your forehead lower down to the mat. Your hips sit back on your heels. And press your hands down into the earth. And take another inhale here. Feel your belly fill up into your thighs. As you exhale, we'll come through our table tap. Spread the fingers wide, tuck the toes under, lift the hips up and back. We'll find downward facing dog. In your down dog, take a deep bend into your knees. And let your belly drift back towards your thighs. Make sure your feet are about hips distance apart. And press down into your knuckles. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears. And bring your gaze about up between your knees. And lift a little higher through the tailbone. Take an inhale. Exhale, let it out your mouth. Then we'll rise up onto the balls of your feet. Walk your feet up behind your wrists. We'll come to a forward fold at the top of your mat. Let your knees be really bent and your feet hips distance apart. We'll take opposite elbows and sway. Let your belly be really close to your thighs here. And even take a deeper bend than you might be used to. So we're not thinking about stretching the hamstrings here so much as releasing the low back, decompressing. And then we'll release the grip from around the elbows. We're going to come to a grab hold of the ankles here. So bend your knees enough that you can reach down to your ankles. And then we're going to sit the hips down low like you're sitting in a chair. Start to look forward. Inhale here. Belly can still be in contact with your thighs or reach your heart a little bit forward. As we exhale, we'll come back into our forward fold. Let the crown of your head face down towards the mat. Arms can be relaxed, but still holding your ankles. Inhale, sit low. Come back to your chair. Thighs working their way down parallel to your mat. Inhale. Exhale, release the breath. Lift the hips up high. Inhale, we'll sit low down into your seat. Exhale, release, fold. Then we'll let the arms hang heavy. Release your grip from around the ankles. Bend your knees. We'll round and roll all the way up to standing. Tadasana. We'll find our mountain pose. Spread your fingers wide. Feet come to hips distance apart. We'll inhale the arms up by your ears. And then as we exhale, we'll grab hold of the left wrist with our right thumb and forefinger. Start to bend over to the right. We're just strengthening through the side body here, which involves a little bit of our low back. So try to keep your weight evenly distributed, core is engaged, your tailbone still pointing down towards the floor, not back behind you. And we'll rise up through center, switch out the grip of your hands, exhale over to the left. Same thing, same amount of weight in each foot. We'll inhale through center. Then we're either going to cactus the arms or keep them straight up above you. We'll take a little back bend, but keep pointing your tailbone down. Spread your arms wide or keep them palms pressed together. We'll let the back bend come from your upper back. So lift your heart up towards the ceiling. Keep your chin pretty tucked in towards your chest. Inhale, reach high. And then on your exhale, we'll step the left foot to the back of your mat. We'll keep the feet hips distance apart here. And then we're going to drop the back heel down so we come to warrior one. Thinking about ways that we can protect the low back as we go through our sequences and take classes. We'll keep the tailbone pointing down towards the earth. Keep your hips square to the front of the mat. We'll glue the outside edge of the back foot down to the floor and bring a deep bend into your front knee. But we want to keep our bottom ribs tucked in, our tailbone still pointing down to the floor so we don't get this crazy curve in the low back. We'll inhale, look up towards your fingers. On your exhale, we're going to open up into warrior two, so you might step your feet a little wider and they'll come into the same line, so they won't be hips distance apart anymore. Deep bend into your front knee. We'll bring the arms out to parallel. Make sure the back edge of your back foot is parallel to the back of your mat or pointing up at a little bit of an angle. Warrior two. And then we'll shift into a modified side angle. So we'll bend into the right elbow, bring it down on top of your right thigh, and we'll just reach the left arm up overhead. And feel free to extend the fingertips toward the front of your mat if that's what you're used to. And think about pulling the belly in here, drawing your shoulders together behind your back, and we're strengthening through the low back. Strengthening the muscles of the mid-back too, bringing our gaze up toward our thumb. And having this really long line of energy all the way from your fingertips to the outside edge of your back foot. Our next inhale draws us up through center, and we'll sink back into our warrior two. Inhale here. Exhale, hands come down to frame your front foot. We'll lift the back heel up, step back to high plank. We'll lower the knees down, and just like before, chest and chin come down to the mat. Shoulders are still away from your ears and they're not touching the floor. And then we'll inhale, slide through into your baby cobra. Exhale, press back through tabletop. Sink your hips onto your heels, child's pose. And then we'll come back through our tabletop. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Bend deeply into your knees, bring your belly closer to your thighs, tailbone reaches high. And then you can start to let your heels travel down towards the earth if that feels nice. We'll take an inhale through the nose. Exhale, let it out your mouth. And then we'll inhale up onto the balls of the feet. Walk your feet up towards the top of your mat, forward fold. And we'll inhale to rise all the way up to standing with a flat back. On your exhale, take your side bend over to the right. Find length in both sides of your body so we don't crunch into that lower side. Remember, we're strengthening the back muscles and through the core. And feel everything engaged. We'll inhale through center. Switch out the hands, exhale over to the left. Inhale up through center. We'll take our optional back bend here. Make sure tailbone's pointing down towards the mat. You can spread your elbows wider, keep the arms reaching up overhead. Lift from your heart towards the sky and keep your chin tucked in toward your chest. Hips are pressing forward here. We'll inhale, reach up. Exhale to fold. We'll grab hold of our ankles, sit low like you're sitting in your chair, make sure feet are hip distance apart. Inhale, stretch the heart forward, make your spine really long. Exhale, fold, crown of the head faces the floor. Inhale, sit low, reach the heart forward, shoulders back. Exhale, dump the thoughts out of the crown of the head, lift the hips high. Once more. Inhale, sit low. Exhale to fold. And we'll inhale to rise all the way back up to standing, keeping our back flat. This time we'll step the right foot to the back of your mat. We'll find warrior one, so drop the back heel down. Spread your feet a little wider apart, and always can make your stance shorter if you need to. Hips are facing forward. Both feet are grounded into the mat, especially the back edge of that back foot. And then your tailbone's pointing down toward the floor, bottom ribs are sucked in. Inhale, reach up, find some length in both sides. Exhale, we'll open up into our warrior two. Bring your feet into the same line. Make your stance really wide. Make sure you can see your big toe to the inside of your front knee. If not, you just rotate it a little bit to the outside. Spread your fingers wide apart. Let your neck be long, relaxed. And we'll start to shift forward, coming to our side angle. Engage through the belly here already as you reach forward. Then bend into the elbow, bring it down onto your front thigh. We'll reach the right arm high this time, or you can extend it over your ear, if that's what you're used to. We'll try to bring our nose in line with our thumb, or our thumb in line with our nose up above us. Make your legs really strong. Feel the muscles of your back engage as they hold up your torso. Our next inhale, we'll rise up back into our warrior two. Settle in. And we'll take an inhale here. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down to frame your front foot. We'll step the left foot back to meet the right, and here we are in a high plank. We're going to do a round of side plank on each side. You're free to come down onto your knees in your high plank, and then we'll start to shift over on the outside edge of the left foot. We'll come onto the left hand, we'll reach the right arm high. And if you need to modify, you just bend into this bottom knee and bring it down underneath you to support you. And keep the core engaged, belly button pulling in towards your spine. And take another inhale here. Exhale, we'll lower down back into our high plank or plank with your knees on the ground. And then we'll start to shift the weight into the right arm, right hand. Come onto the outside edge of your right foot. We'll keep the hips lifted high as we stretch the left arm up to the sky. Remember, you can lower the bottom knee down to modify. You might bring your gaze up to your top hand. Your tailbone's pointing down towards your feet. We'll inhale here. Exhale, lower into plank pose. Or lower your knees down to the mat or coming all the way down to the belly. We'll untuck your toes and we'll set up for locust pose here. So we'll bring the palms down to the mat. And we're going to bring the feet hips distance apart. If you have a really sensitive low back, you just might keep the feet on the ground here and lift only through the arms and the chest. We're going to take 2 rounds. So if it's okay on your low back, we'll inhale the arms, the chest, and the legs all at once. Keep your gaze down on the mat or right in front of your mat. Engage through your legs like you could touch the wall behind you with your toes, and then start to reach your fingers back towards your heels. And we'll inhale here. Exhale, lowers you down. Turn your right cheek to face the mat. We'll bend into the knees, and you can windshield wiper them from side to side. I'm a little close to the wall for that. And then we'll bring your gaze back through center. Feet come straight back behind you. They're still hips distance apart. And then if you did choose the option where you like to keep your feet on the ground, we'll just inhale through the arms and the chest. Staying just like this, pressing down through the tops of your feet so your legs are still engaged. Reaching your fingers back as far as you can. And you can always have your feet up off the earth too, strengthening through the low back. Inhale, lift up a little higher. Exhale, let your body drape back down to the mat. Turn your left cheek to the side. Let your ankles come out and your toes come in. Your big toes cross back behind you. You can even wag your tail a little bit here. And then you'll shift your gaze back down to the mat. We're actually just going to roll over onto our backs from here. And then we'll bring our knees pointing up towards the sky, feet planted down into the earth. We'll cross the right ankle over the left knee. And then we'll reach between that hole so we can interlace the hands around the outside of the shin. Flex into both your feet. We'll keep the low back rounded down on the mat. Same thing with your shoulders. And we'll just start to pull our knees in close to the body. And we'll release the grip around the left knee, bring it back down to the mat. Uncross the ankles, we'll switch over to the other side. Reach through, threading the needle on this side. And just paying attention to the flexing of the feet here, guys, to protect your knee joint. And we'll draw the knees in gently closer towards the torso. But low back is still pressing down to the mat. We'll unwind. We'll draw both knees up into your chest. And then we'll release the right leg long on your mat. We're going to cross the left knee over to the other side. Shift your hips a little bit to the left. And we'll cactus the arms, or if you have the space, spread your arms wide. We'll look over towards your left hand. Coming back to breathe all the way down into the belly. And we'll start to make your way up through center. We'll hug that left knee up into your chest, bring the right one up to meet it, and then we'll extend the left leg down long. Scoot your hips a little to the right, and then we'll cross the right knee over. Spread your arms wide and bring your gaze to look at your right hand. And then our next inhale, we'll start to draw up through center. We'll reach in between the knees to grab hold of the insides or the outsides of the feet. Bring your knees toward your armpits, bottoms of the feet face up to the sky. Take your happy baby with your low back pressing down towards the mat. And then we'll draw the knees back in. Give yourself one more big hug. Inhale here. And then exhale, expand into your final resting pose. Let your feet and your hands relax. Arms, legs supported by your mat. Your eyes are closed. Take that same physical scan from the beginning of the class and notice what's changed. If anywhere feels a little lighter, a little looser. That same mental scan of your thoughts and how they're behaving. Maybe you've been able to leave something behind during the time we were on our mat. And the same scan of your emotions. Letting them go as we drop into our final rest. When you're ready, start to make your way slowly and gently out of your Shavasana, coming up to a seat. Hopefully you found something today that served you and your body well. If you ever have a request for a video or body part that you'd like to draw some attention to, just leave me a note in a comment somewhere and I'll try to make one for you. Thank you for being here today. I hope we got you feeling a little bit better. Namaste.